Michael van Gerwen's foot is breaking one of Dart's most important rules, and nobody seems willing to call him out. Is this a clever edge or blatant cheating dressed up as gamesmanship? Today, we're exposing the subtle mind games lurking behind the scenes. From foot placement to invisible zones that decide matches before a dart is thrown. Ready to see the game you thought you knew in a whole new light? Let's dive in. Let's take you back to 2001 at the PDC World Grand Prix. The stage was much smaller, the crowd more intimate, and while the competition was fierce, the rules around player conduct were still evolving. Over the years, as darts grew into a global spectacle, arenas swelled with thousands of fans, and the pressure on players intensified. Yet amid this growth, one feature of the stage underwent a quiet but significant transformation: the carpet. At first glance, it may seem trivial, but this change has shaped the very way the game is played. The key innovation came in the form of the exclusion zone. This is a specially marked area of carpet behind and to the sides of the oche, the line from which players throw. Its purpose? To keep players physically separated when it's their opponent's turn, removing opportunities to distract or intimidate. Just imagine trying to focus on your triple 20 while your opponent's foot is inches behind you, or worse, tapping impatiently. The exclusion zone acts as a buffer, a clear boundary players must respect to ensure fair play and concentration. If you look at a side-by-side comparison of the stage from the 2001 finals and the latest Masters tournament, the difference is striking. The earlier stage lacked any such marking, allowing players to stand close to each other. Modern stages feature this colored zone prominently, redefining the players' spatial relationship during the game. The introduction of this carpeted area might sound like a minor detail, but it dramatically changed the dynamics on stage, making it harder for players to influence their opponents subtly through presence alone. Now, to fully understand why the exclusion zone was created, we need to rewind to a pivotal moment in 2002 during the first round of the PDC World Championship. The match was between Rod Harrington, seeded third, and Keith Deller, the 1983 world champion. What made headlines wasn't their precision or high scores, but a tense argument that revealed just how thin the line is between competitive edge and unsportsmanlike conduct. Rod accused Keith of deliberately placing his foot in a distracting position when retrieving his darts. Harrington claimed Keith was taking excessive time leaving the oche and making unnecessary leg movements that unsettled him. The situation escalated when Rod admitted to kicking Keith's heel during the match, an act of retaliation intended to disrupt his opponent's rhythm. Though Rod initially denied it, years later, in a 2018 interview, he openly confessed to intentionally kicking Keith twice during a round of golf.
Right darts or great darts at crucial times in the leg and goes on and win.
A telling admission about the level of gamesmanship involved. This clash highlighted a glaring loophole in the rules. Nothing explicitly prevented players from encroaching on their opponent's space to gain a psychological advantage. The PDC responded by introducing the exclusion zone, formally defining a 300mm area on either side of the oche and 900mm behind it, where players must not enter during their opponent's throw. Players must retrieve their darts quickly, moving to the side and out of this zone, while referees are tasked with enforcing compliance. This rule change reshaped how players approach their positioning on stage. The exclusion zone was created not just to enforce physical distance, but to protect the mental focus and flow of the game. But as we'll see, despite this, some players have found ways to push the boundaries. Enter Michael van Gerwen, a player famed for his rapid-fire, high-intensity style. His ability to control the rhythm of a game sets him apart, often overwhelming opponents with relentless pace. Yet in recent years, observers and fans have noticed a recurring detail. Van Gerwen's foot frequently crosses into the exclusion zone while his opponent prepares to throw. This subtle breach raises eyebrows because the exclusion zone was created precisely to prevent such distractions, maintaining fairness and focus during each player's turn. A particularly telling moment unfolded during the 2023 World Championship semi-final against Dimitri van den Berg. Dimitri, trailing 2-0, showed visible signs of frustration as cameras captured Van Gerwen's foot, lingering inside the exclusion zone.
Like Emma said, to take on
during his throws. The tension on stage was tangible. Dimitri took a step back, exchanged words with Van Gerwen, yet the situation remained unchanged. Despite the discomfort, Van Gerwen maintained his composure, finishing the match with an impressive average of 108 and securing victory. This incident sparked debate among fans and analysts alike, shining a light on the fine line between competitive edge and rule infringement. Why hasn't Van Gerwen been called out more forcefully? Some argue that his foot placement is a calculated form of gamesmanship, a psychological tactic aimed at unsettling opponents without crossing the line into blatant cheating. The reality is that many players may feel intimidated or reluctant to confront a dominant figure like Van Gerwen publicly. The culture of respect mixed with fear in professional darts creates an environment where subtle infractions often go unchallenged, especially when they come from the sport's biggest stars. But there's more beneath the surface. Could Van Gerwen's footwork be less about intimidation and more about strategy? His lightning-fast throws require an unbroken rhythm, and staying close to the exclusion zone might simply be his way of maintaining that pace. Moving quickly back to the oche keeps his momentum steady, forcing opponents to react faster than they're comfortable with. This approach exploits the game's tempo to his advantage without necessarily breaking rules. Consider the 2023 Premier League night in Berlin. During a nail-biting 11th leg, Luke Littler stepped up for match darts, and cameras revealed Van Gerwen's foot clearly inside the exclusion zone. Luke missed the crucial shots, and Van Gerwen clinched the win. Social media buzzed with comments about the foot placement, yet neither the referee nor Luke made any official complaint. One Reddit user noted, yes, he often does this, baffling why the PDC doesn't do anything. It's a blatant rule breach. He's certainly not the only player to do this, but the most notable. Others pointed out that such breaches, if unchallenged, could set a concerning precedent for future matches. Even legendary players like Phil Taylor have pointed out such behavior in the past, but penalties remain rare. Most of Van Gerwen's incursions involve just his toes crossing the boundary, subtle enough to avoid formal reprimand. However, with modern camera technology exposing every detail, these minor breaches are no longer easy to overlook. The deeper question lingers: how far can mind games and subtle rule bending go before they tip the balance unfairly? The next chapter reveals how officials handle these situations and why some players accept or resist the invisible pressure. Michael van Gerwen's foot placement walks a tightrope between clever strategy and questionable gamesmanship. While he may not be breaking any explicit rules, his subtle encroachments into the exclusion zone have a clear psychological impact on opponents. This creates a challenging grey area where the difference between fair play and unfair advantage blurs. For referees, stepping into this zone of ambiguity is delicate. Calling out a top player risks controversy, and sometimes the infractions are so minor they barely register in the heat of competition. The rules themselves are unambiguous about the exclusion zone boundaries and the consequences of crossing them. In 2010, Adrian Lewis faced a fine after officials found him guilty of stepping into this restricted area during the World Grand Prix. That incident underscores that referees do have both the authority and willingness to intervene when violations are clear and undeniable. The enforcement is there, but the consistency can vary, especially when the breaches are subtle or when the player involved commands significant respect or fear. With Van Gerwen, opponents often seem hesitant to call him out. This hesitation might stem from intimidation or the fast-paced nature of the game where moments pass quickly, leaving little room for protest. Others may simply fail to notice the subtle foot movements while focused on their own throws. This lack of direct confrontation allows Van Gerwen to push the boundaries of the rules without immediate repercussions. This situation highlights the fine line professional darts players tread between pushing for every possible edge and maintaining sportsmanship. It's a constant mental game where the smallest details can shape the outcome. All in all, Michael van Gerwen may look like a master of tricks, but when it comes to that foot in the exclusion zone, is it really cheating or just smart strategy to keep his game flowing at full speed? What's your take? Is Michael pushing the limits or just playing by the book? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more eye-opening dives into the hidden psychology of sports. Until next time, keep your foot outside the zone and stay sharp.